I'm David Charvet with Charvet Classic Cars, and today I'm here with a 1935 Cadillac Model 370D V12 Fleetwood-bodied, leatherback, 7-passenger town cabriolet. That's an impressive name for what is a very impressive car, and I'll tell you all about it. This car was special ordered on January 21st, 1935 from Berkshire Auto Company in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. The original owner was a gentleman named Lee Perkins. And he actually bought this for his wife, May. Lee was a wealthy industrialist in the gear business. His wife, May, had had several accidents with the family car, in fact, some that were even reported in the newspaper. And so at that point, it was decided that May would no longer drive. Lee found her this car and a chauffeur to go along with it. So she had a chauffeur to drive her anywhere she wanted to go in style, in V12 style. The car was used by the Perkins family from 1935 up until 1942, at the start of World War II, when gas rationing took effect, and at that point this car had 36,000 miles on it, and it was mothballed, really, by being put into an airplane hangar near the Perkins home, and at that point mothballs were put in the rear compartment to preserve the interior, and the car was left to sit. Now, they thought it might sit until after the end of the war. Well, it sat longer than that. It actually sat for the next 31 years until 1973. May Perkins passed away in 1967. The car was left as part of her estate. It remained in the airplane hangar. And in 1973, the estate placed a little 3-line text ad in Hemmings Motor News. At that point, a gentleman named Jack Frank in Southern California saw the ad, came to Massachusetts, and fell in love with the car, even though at that time it was sitting on 4 flat tires and the top had rotted away in the chauffeur's compartment, and it was basically a wreck, except for the rear compartment of the car, which the mothballs had preserved. I'm going to show you this interior, which now is nearing 90 years old. It is completely original. This car is, in fact, of the hundreds that I've sold over the years, I would say this is probably the best documented car that I've ever handled. The documentation on this car goes back to the original owner and follows it all the way up to today. Now, the interesting thing is, when Jack Frank bought this car, he and his wife Carol, at 1974, 2 gentlemen, Phil Hill and Ken Vaughn, were just opening their restoration shop in Santa Monica, California. They became world famous as Hill and Vaughn, and they're still famous today, although they've not been in business for years. Cars like this survived that were restored by Hill and Vaughn. This was in fact one of the first 5 cars ever restored by Hill and Vaughn. It was a 3-year restoration from 1974 to 1977, and there was no stone left unturned, no piece untouched on this car. And there were many times looking at the invoices, which is a stack about 5 inches thick for everything that was done on this car while it was in the Hill and Vaughn shops. They sometimes did a job on this car and then they redid it because they weren't satisfied with the quality. It wasn't up to their standards. And this is shown in Hill and Vaughn restorations, not just this car, but other ones which they did for years afterwards. The attention to detail, the attention to quality shows, even now, at the time of this video, 45 years after this car was restored, it looks like it just rolled out of the restoration shop maybe last year. It's absolutely impeccable. I can find no flaws on the body, nothing that would lead me to believe the car was ever abused, and the history of this car, once it was finished in 1977, when it left the Hill and Vaughn shops, a couple months later, it went to Pebble Beach. And at Pebble Beach, these were the days at Pebble Beach when you had the big hitters like Bill Harrah and Jack Nethercutt, people with bottomless pockets who would take cars and restore them, or in those days, many cases, over-restore them, to win the coveted prizes at Pebble Beach. Well, this car came in on the lawn at Pebble Beach, basically by an unknown owner, Jack Frank, and it walked away in 1977 with Best in Class and Most Elegant that year at the 1977 Pebble Beach Concours. Now, that was not its only appearance at Pebble Beach. Subsequently, in 1993, it was on the lawn at Pebble Beach and went across the stage. And also, again, in 2014, it went across the stage at Pebble Beach. So this car has been shown, and always a consistent winner. It has appeared in subsequent years after the first appearance at Pebble Beach. Over the next 30 years, it appeared at over 60 concours throughout the country. And these aren't just local shows. These were national shows, including Classic Car Club, Cadillac LaSalle Club, and many, many more. Prestigious concours where at every show, every one of these 60-plus shows, it walked away with either first in class, best in show, or a special award. So again, the quality of the restoration of this car is absolutely stunning. Let's take a look under the hood and see what it's all about. It's a 45-degree opposed V12 engine, basically two 6-cylinder engines, overhead valve engines, placed at a 45-degree angle. These were designed initially in 1930, and Cadillac, of course, at that time also came out with the V16. And the V16 came out, and they decided they also wanted to have a car that was one step below, but not a V8. So the V12, this became the engine of choice. And again, was designed to be specifically in exclusive, high-end, limited production cars. It has one distributor, but it has two carburetors, which feed both banks, of course. And it's really a sophisticated engine for the era. It's a very sophisticated overhead valve engine. The nice thing about these is that these were designed not just to run well, but they were designed to be beautiful. When you raise the hood and you wanted to show someone your engine, these were designed to be a work of art. And you can see that with the way the valve covers have polished tops on them, all the ceramic coating on all of the exhaust system, which in this case also is, even after 45 years of use and showing, it's absolutely perfect. There's no cracks, there's no damage. The work, again, done on this car has held and stood the test of time. It's 368 cubic inches. It's called the Model 370, so some people actually call it a 370 cubic inch engine. And it creates about 150 horsepower. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but in a car of this size, with the amount of torque that these engines create, it goes right down the road. As you can see, the car starts easily, runs smoothly, and is absolutely impeccably done. Now, again, when this car was found, it had 36,000 miles on it in 1977. Since then, with its showings and touring that it's done, it now has just over 43,000 miles on it. So still, for all intents and purposes, it's a new engine. And although the engine's been gone through, there was nothing major that had to be done to it. But you can see, looking at it, it is absolutely beautiful, and it runs just like a Swiss watch. Now let's take a look inside. The chauffeur's compartment, again, this car has suicide doors. And before I show you inside, just again, the quality of this, there is no sag on the doors. There is wood framing in this body, but it is absolutely perfect. It doesn't sag. When you close the door, it is, like the old expression, like a bank vault. It really is. All the plating has been done on this car, and it still looks fresh and clean and new. When you open the door, the interior, the leather, which was all done again by Hill & Vaughn inside. The interesting thing about this car is, from the factory, it has a secret compartment, which is located up front here. And in that compartment, when you raise it up and open it up, you will find an umbrella for the chauffeur. And this is the original umbrella, made by Fleetwood in 1935, and it has stayed with the car all of these years. So that's great to see that this umbrella, again, survived. It goes, again, right here inside the seat, and there's a little cover that covers that as well. It's black leather up front with black carpeting. This is the way it was spec'd, again, by the owner, from the factory, from Fleetwood. The wood, this is all wood. This is real wood, walnut on the inside. All the trim and garnish moldings have been refinished, and they are lovely. All the chrome inside on the instrument panel and all the gauges, all of those were done as well at the same time. The nice thing about this, a lot of town cars of this era did not really take the chauffeur into consideration, and they left him pretty much exposed out in the open. But in this case, this actually does have windows which roll up in the door, so the chauffeur can stay out of the weather. And again, that was not common on other town cars, and I've sold other town cars of this era that were wide open. The chauffeur's top here is, again, it's a soft top, and inside there are some brace bars which unscrew. The whole assembly comes off, and you put the rods in the trunk. They store back there. The top itself folds back and goes into the header right back here, right above the B-pillar. And there's a small compartment. This all folds back inside, so that gives you a wide open compartment for the chauffeur on nice days. Now the rear compartment. I said this is really remarkable because this rear compartment in this car is completely original, and it was a special ordered upholstery from Fleetwood. And when you look at it today, it is hard to believe that this is actually 90-year-old upholstery, or nearly 90 years old now at this point. It's soft, it's supple, it doesn't show any wear. But again, this car, when it was parked, had 36,000 miles on it, so the family did not use it excessively. And I don't know how big of a person May Perkins was, but obviously the bolsters, the cushions, everything is firm and as it was. It's not a broken down hulk at all. It is as fresh as it could have been from the factory. It has jump seats, which you can unfold, and interestingly, all of the hardware in the back of this car is gold plated, which is unusual and obviously limited only to very, very high-end cars of the era. Remember, we're still in the middle of the Great Depression. When this car sold to the Perkins family, it was nearly $7,000. Now, $7,000 in 1935 was a chunk of money when you consider you could buy a house, a fairly modest but nice, two-bedroom house, for about $1,500 to $2,500. So for $7,000 for this town car, it is absolutely over the top in the way it was finished, but tastefully done. Tastefully done. It's not garish, it's subtle, and absolutely beautiful. The jump seats are interesting because when you fold them out, there is a zippered cover, and I've never seen covers like this on any other car, with a zippered cover which folds up, and you unfold the jump seat, then you are able to tuck that cover underneath so it gives you leg room. And again, this car for this year was the only year they built this style of car on a 146-inch wheelbase. They were usually built on a 138-inch wheelbase, but the 8 of these that were built in this style in 1935 are all on this long 146-inch wheelbase, which gives the people in the rear compartment, and especially those if you're using the jump seats and having someone sit behind you in the rear seat, you have plenty of leg room actually in this car, and it's really quite nice. So if you are taking people out for a night on the town, like going on a trip, there is comfort here throughout, and it was all taken into consideration by Fleetwood. On the inside, this back panel, there is a radio in this compartment, and which has a key lock on it, so the chauffeur will not listen to it unless he's authorized by the owner. And there's also an intercom speaker. The interesting thing, though, is that when this car was ordered, Mr. Perkins did not have the intercom hooked up, because he felt he did not want May, his wife, to bother the chauffeur. So the intercom is here, but it's not hooked up. Again, all of the detail that went into this car is absolutely lovely. Absolutely lovely. And the condition, again, I cannot stress highly enough how great it is. You know, although I never met them, I am told that Jack and Carol Frank, who owned this car and loved it for so many years, were wonderful people. They had no children, so really they treated this car as their child. It was absolutely babied all of its life, and that attention shows today. They would attend shows, and Jack would often dress as a chauffeur, and Carol would dress either as a maid or as the elegant madame, lady of the house. And they got a kick out of it, and people at the concours would get a kick out of this couple who loved this car so much and loved sharing it with audiences and attendees of car shows all across the country. They're both gone now, but this car lives on as testament to their love and their love of this automobile. At this point, I think we should take it out for a drive and show you what it's all about. The smoothness of the 12-cylinder Cadillac engine is hard to beat. I mean, Packard had a 12 in 1932, but this predated it. This is, again, 1930 when this engine was first designed, and was run through 1937. Was the last year they built these cars. But this one, it runs smoothly, it shifts like butter. It's really just a great running and driving car. And although it's a big car, it's still fairly light to steer when you really are moving it. It's not that hard to steer. So I'm going to turn here. And there we are. And even being a 146-inch wheelbase, it still will fit in a standard size garage. So that's not an issue. All the gauges work, and they all register accurately. It runs cool. It's just really a pleasure to drive this car. As I mentioned, 150 horsepower doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're driving this car, you have plenty of reserve power. You really do, because the torque is spectacular, and it will go right down the road and keep up with modern traffic with no issues. It's tight. It doesn't jostle around. It holds the road beautifully. It's just a nice package. So if you have any questions about this Cadillac or any of the other cars that we represent, feel free to give me a call at 503-309-7729. I'm David Charvet. Thanks for watching.